Well, the organisation Equal Education says the basic education department is not creating a proper plan to restart the National Schools Nutrition Programme. The organisation won a court order telling the department it had to start feeding millions of children around the country, even though schools are closed. Hopolang Selebalo is the co-head of research at Equal Education. Hopolang, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. What's wrong with the department's plan? Where is it failing in your view?
So there's a plan by the Department of Basic Education and plans by provincial MECs that the court ordered be provided within 10 days of the judgment, and that 10 days lapsed on the 31st of July, which was last week Friday, and that's when we received the Department of Basic Education's plans, and were supposed to get the same plans from provincial MECs. Their plans were late, and we only received them earlier this week on Monday and on Tuesday. So already that was, a sign of foreboding. And the way in which our members have expressed the provision of school nutrition in reality on the ground is indicative of the shallowness and the vagueness of the plans that we've been provided. They are incoherent in many instances. They completely lack important information. One doesn't have a clear idea how learners and their parents have been informed about how meals will be picked up from schools, or whether scholar transport will be provided, or how the provinces and the Department of Basic Education intend to monitor the rollout of the National School Nutrition Program. So one wouldn't even be able to call them a plan because none of them provide a roadmap on what needs to be done to ensure that all qualifying learners, whether at home or in school, are able to access meals.
Okay, you would think, in terms of what government does, right, of the top 4 or 5 most important things government does in our society, you'd have social grants. I think school meals comes next. I would think this would be a national priority.
School meals will come next in the ambit of education, or under the umbrella of education. And we've actually been seeing, although government says that education is a key priority and the NSNP forms part of education, we've been seeing a deprioritization of funding towards education, again an indicator that this is not a socio-economic right that is core to government priorities, even though the government espouses that it is. If you're going to take away funding from education, infrastructure, you're not adding more money towards the National School Nutrition Program, then you're clearly not prioritizing education. The fact that we had to take government to court to feed learners during an incredibly long period of lockdown, and during this period now, as schools open and close again due to COVID-19, is also an indicator that government is not prioritizing this need and the service that is education.
Is it possible to know how many children, as a rough percentage around the country, are actually getting school meals? I know some of the departments have been appealing to people. Some of the departments have said that children actually don't have to go to the school they normally go to. They can go to any school. That's quite important because of transport issues and working, etc. Do we know? Is it 20%, 10% more, I hope?
I wish I could say that the plans gave that figure or that indication. What we have is information from our members, from learners and from parents. So we know that over 9 million learners under normal circumstances benefit from the National School Nutrition Program. Yesterday, the MEC of the Free State tweeted that only 5% of learners in that province are accessing meals at this time. This was not at all provided for, indicated in the plan that we received earlier this week, which would then allow the province to ensure that learners, more than 5% of learners, in fact all learners in the province, are getting meals, either by communicating with parents adequately and with learners adequately so that they know that school meals are being provided, or by ensuring that there's scholar transport available for learners who live far from their nearest schools. One learner has told us already that she's not accessing meals currently because she lives far from her nearest school.
Sure. I mean, it really shows you the problems that we have in our society. But, I mean, I'm still staggered by the sort of lack of urgency. It's such an important thing. And in the middle of this, of course, we have preparations for schools to actually go back to start teaching. That'll make it easier for meals as well, of course. How's that process going? I mean, are we seeing the departments getting schools ready at all for the end of August?
I mean, one would hope that the rollout of the NSNP will happen seamlessly, will take place more seamlessly once schools resume. It would be ideal. It would be ideal, incredible if that were happening right now. But that's exactly what we're fighting for at this moment, and we will continue to monitor the implementation of the NSNP. In terms of school readiness, we haven't received any reports yet, as grade 12 have come back this week, indicating that schools aren't ready. We are hoping that the department, and in fact have sent a letter to the department stating that PPE must be in place, because we know that was a big challenge over June and July. In fact, some schools didn't open after the first phase of reopening because due to lack of PPE, personal protective equipment. We know some schools didn't open because of lack of infrastructure, lack of water, lack of toilets. So we're hoping that during this pause, as it was called, schools the departments of basic education and provincial education departments are able to ensure that everything is in place to make sure that schools open safely and that learners and teachers are back in schools safely.
And I mean, along with that, so the national school, the school nutrition program obviously does work better if children are at school, but the money for the meals has already been budgeted for, right? I mean, the food's actually, I mean, it's all there.
That's correct. The money is there. What was quite alarming was when the minister's report, in the minister's report or the minister's plan, it indicates that later in the year they may come up against budgetary constraints in terms of feeding learners over November and December, which was obviously quite alarming. And we highlighted this in our submission to the Parliamentary Appropriations Committee, that in fact we should be giving more money towards the NSNP, considering how vital it is during this moment as families are going through financial distress, constraints. But the minister says that we may come up against some barriers when it comes to the budget, but there's no clarity on how the department intends to overcome that challenge. So we've written to the department to get specificity. How do you intend to address this problem? Because we don't want to find ourselves in November and December being told that the departments aren't able to provide learners with meals because they don't have money.
Okay, and Hopolang, I mean, obviously, the national conversation about schools, whether they should be open or not, I mean, it's been such a big conversation. There's so many aspects to it. I mean, the point's been made again and again how important education is. It's actually what makes children South African, if you consider the racialized inequality in our society. And, of course, there are concerns about the coronavirus. From where you sit at the moment, do you think schools will actually go back? Do you think we'll have all of the children in this country back in school by the end of August? Or do you think that debate is going to flare up again?
It's possible that the debate will flare up again. And again, it depends on the performance of the DBE and how the DBE communicates with the public. Right now, the manner in which the department has been communicating since the department indicated that they want to phase back the reopening of schools, it has been utterly shambolic. Schools don't know what to do when there's a case of COVID in schools. The department keeps referring to the standard operating procedures, which are quite vague and clearly unhelpful for teachers and staff in schools. So you find school opening and closing. Guidelines, protocols are necessary to ensure that school communities know what to do in case there's a case in school, whether they should close, for how long, what needs to be done, and how you phase learners back in school. But if the department isn't communicating adequately with parents, with teachers, with the public, then it's going to be an incredibly difficult period. And you're right, it has been an incredibly contentious discussion over the last couple of months. And one of the reasons, and there are several reasons why that is the case, but one of the reasons is because of the manner in which the department has communicated information around COVID-19.
Hopolang Selebalo, really do appreciate the time. Thank you. Co-head of research at Equal Education.